Hello and welcome to Stupid Ancient History with Midgley
and Taylor, and our expert, non-expert and special guest, the amazing James, hegemon of all that is science and wearer of fancy lab coat.
Hello.
As always, we're wearing togas, and today we're going to look at two key events from Alexander's youth. Previously on Stupid Ancient History, we've been looking at the youth and upbringing of Alexander the Great.
And his conception. All the nonsense that was.
No mention of his conception today.
Not today.
Is there no lightning bolts, nothing like that?
Well, there is now that you've just thrown that in.
We've gone past
Good.
sexy time.
Anyway, we've looked at how, despite being born into relative wealth as heir of the Macedonian throne, young Alexander is caught between the ambitions of his two estranged parents.
Like a human ping pong ball.
On one hand, you've got his mother, Olympias, who's regularly reminding him of his divine origins, lightning bolts. And
He was going to get mentioned.
Yeah, and raising him to be a future king.
Which would handily mean she would stay close to the Macedonian throne. She's not stupid.
No. Whilst on the other hand, his father, Philip, wanted him to follow in his footsteps, become a great soldier and a general, and start scrapping.
Yeah, follow his distinguished line of punch-ups.
With spears
Yeah.
and armies.
Stab-ups.
Stab-ups.
Slightly longer spears than everyone else.
Spear-ups.
Significantly longer.
He just likes making holes in people, basically.
Nice. And in the midst of all this, we saw Alexander's character begin to develop, his intelligence shine through, and his own ideas start to take hold.
Dweeby stuff.
With a knife.
Yeah.
An armed nerd.
Yeah. The most dangerous type. So you just mentioned Alexander's youth.
Yep.
Last time we finished, he was 16. Is he still a youth, or when does he become a man?
Well, we've missed some bits.
Okay.
So there's some key bits.
I mean, we did jump from 8 to 16.
Yeah, I mean, there's whole
The
of
middle bit's a
stories.
bit rubbish.
Nothing happened in those 8 years.
Well, a few things did. So the two events we're looking at today, whilst they happened quite far apart in his youth, pre-18 basically, they're quite key in highlighting two different sides of Alexander's character.
So characteristics that'll definitely kind of raise their heads again later. So recurring
Okay.
themes, as you will.
So we've seen nice, stately Alexander greeting Persians, asking about roads, and burning down cities and naming things after himself, Alexander.
Yeah, there's more.
Okay.
So the first of these events takes place when Alexander is about 9 and involves a horse.
I don't want to be here for this. The last time you two tricked me into hearing about a horse, I didn't like it at all.
It's nothing bad, don't
No,
worry.
it's not
Okay.
that. So Alexander's dad, Philip, is buying horses, or as Plutarch sets the scene, like this.
Philinesius, the Thessalian, bought Boucephalas to sell to Philip for 13 talents. They all went down to the plain to inspect the horse, and he appeared to be difficult and completely unmanageable. Sounds like my toddler. Not allowing anyone to ride him or responding to the voice of any of Philip's men, but rearing at all of them.
Did Philip often go to the market and buy horses himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Philip buying horses is not unusual. He's a cavalry officer. When he goes and fights people, he's on horseback. He's obviously got a keen interest in horses. So this is probably him going out to buy a new sports car.
Right, okay.
So this is not an uncommon event.
He wants to
Okay.
make sure he's getting a good one.
Yeah.
Kick the tyres.
See if the tyres kick back.
Yeah.
Now, Philip being Philip, he's most likely not just going to be on his own buying horses. A bit too pedestrian. He's going to have with him not only his bodyguards, he's the king, but most likely all of his friends and companions from the Macedonian cavalry.
Any excuse for a sesh, James.
The boys.
The boys,
boys.
yeah. I mean, as well as, these aren't just going to be the lads. These
Yeah.
are going to be, some pretty significant men.
I quite like the idea that he's on his way out and says to wife, what end number he's on. I'm just off out with the boys, like, drinking again. No, we're going to buy some
horses.
horses. He's like,
Quick, lads, better
like,
buy some horses
yeah, lads,
while we're
I
out.
need to come home with at least one horse.
So anyway, as well as the lads, Philip has brought the young Alexander with him, who upon seeing this horse and everything going on, Plutarch tells us...
Oh, sorry.
It doesn't say who's sorry.
Alexander was there and said, What a horse they are losing when they cannot handle him through lack of skill and patience.
That's a bold thing to say to all the generals and horsemen,
Well, yeah,
etc.
it absolutely is, because as well as, these men with Philip, these are likely the best horsemen in Macedonia, if not all of Greece. Macedonians were famous for their cavalry.
Yeah.
These were...
Was it just them because they have like quite a lot of flat land compared to the rest of Greece, isn't it?
They've got more horses than everyone else.
Right,
if you go
okay.
further down into the Peloponnese, it's goats.
Yeah.
You're not going to ride into battle on a goat, are you?
That would be hilarious.
I don't know, has anyone ever given it a try?
It probably didn't end well.
Maybe the enemy was so confused they just couldn't muster a response.
But one slip on them horns and no.
Yeah, you've
Not
got to
good.
grab onto the bit. Anyway, moving on. So, so he's making this bold statement in front of arguably the best cavalrymen in all of Greece.
Yeah, and what they don't know about horses is not worth knowing.
Okay.
So, initially, Philip lets this little comment pass, thinking, yeah, shut up, kid. But when Alexander keeps on with this, he decides, right, I'm going to pick you up on this. And Plutarch chips in.
Do you find fault with your elders because you know more than they do, or are better able to handle a horse?
Okay.
So he's
kinda
calling him
put
out.
put your money where your mouth is, sort of thing.
To which the young Alexander replies...
I could certainly manage the horse better than anyone else.
Shots fired,
Shots fired
Alexander.
indeed.
Confident.
He's doubling down on this boldness.
Trying to imagine if I gave my dad that level of sass when I was how old?
9.
9.
Not just your dad, but your dad's extremely hard mate. Probably got necklaces of skulls of the people they've conquered. So, presumably to teach his son a lesson, Philip makes a wager with him.
Put up or shut up.
He's often bet with his son.
That's
Philip,
what
he
I'm
does what
gonna
he
say.
does.
Okay.
So obviously, if Alexander is successful, he keeps the horse. But Philip's keen to press Alexander himself to decide the penalty for failure. It's kind of make your bed, you're going to have to lie on it. So he presses him, to which Alexander replies...
By Zeus, I will pay the price of the horse. This made everybody laugh, and then father and son made an agreement about the penalty.
So, what is the penalty?
That if he doesn't tame it, he's got to buy the horse anyway.
Oh, that's not okay. I mean, I assume he doesn't have pocket money, so it's not like, oh, I can't afford the horse, Dad. Like,
You're the heir to the Macedonian throne. I think
Yeah.
you can afford an horse.
well, this is it, probably.
It's more about teaching him a lesson, isn't it?
Yeah. Put
Basically.
your money where your mouth is
Yeah.
and prepare to
So,
be backhanded.
Is there any context for how unruly this horse is?
Pretty unruly.
Okay.
It's about as unruly as a year 8 class on a Friday afternoon. So anyway, the wager is set, probably toasted with a few rounds of drinks, because, that's
That's-
what the Macedonians do.
That's
Fair
standard
enough.
practice.
They're famous for not mixing their wine. So southern Greeks would mix their wine with water to
Yeah.
dilute it. Not the Macedonians.
Is that just because of the heat? So it's more of a refreshing tipple in the day, or is it just because they don't want to get plastered?
Probably a bit of both.
Okay.
But, the Macedonians, no, they were all for...
Just getting sloshed.
Yeah. So anyway, be out for a few rounds, cheer the bet, and Alexander duly sets off towards this untamable horse, where...
At once, Alexander ran up to the horse and, taking the reins, turned him towards the sun.
Okay. Is that it? Right, so he just turned the horse towards the sun.
Turned the horse round.
Now, I obviously know an excessive amount about horses. I don't really know what he's doing here.
Well, apparently it works, because Plutarch then continues...
He had noticed that the horse was disturbed by seeing his own shadow falling in front of him and dancing around.
Okay.
It was afraid of its own shadow.
I mean, for such a, untamable mountain of a horse, it's a bit of a wimp.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently Alexander, with his keen powers of observation, was the only one who noticed this was the problem. Everyone else just thought the horse was nuts.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've unfortunately never been to Greece, but it's usually quite sunny. This horse is going to have to get used to seeing
Yeah.
its shadow.
Maybe they put eye patches on it, like they do now.
But they're so it doesn't see the sides. I
Yeah.
don't think you get blinkers for downwards.
sunglasses.
Oh.
Anyway, the main thing is, do you really want a horse that is scared of its own shadow if you're planning to ride into battle?
I mean, is this what this horse is for?
It's
Yeah.
going to be an issue, isn't it?
I mean, there's probably scary things than a shadow that's going to happen in a battle.
Oh no, the Persians have brought out their
What
new
about if
weapon.
it-
What is
what-
it? A shadow.
Oh,
What
no.
about if it sees its reflection in a shiny weapon?
Yeah. So yeah, like, so do all of Alexander's battles have to take place at like high noon?
Must do. Or in the dark.
Night time!
Because if it was like dusk and the shadows were really long, that horse would just freak out.
It's alright, because he's tamed it. It's all good
That's
now.
it. It's now tame.
Well, yeah, I mean, once he gets the horse pointing the right way,
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit calmer and a bit more manageable. Plutarch then continues.
He saw that it was full of spirit and energy. He took off his cloak quietly, leapt up and seated himself safely. Then gently directing the bit with the reins without striking the horse or tearing his mouth, Alexander held the horse back.
Nice and tame.
If it's so untamed, who put the reins and bridle and saddle on it and stuff?
Maybe they were already there. But that's not all. Obviously, now that he's on Boucephalas and he's calmed it down.
I'm guessing that's the name of the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he saw that the horse had stopped misbehaving and was eager for a run, he spoke more boldly, kicked with his heels and gave the horse his head.
So he just does like a drive-by on his dad and his mates. Just like,
Hey!
look what I've done.
Pay me my money, Dad.
So what's the horse called again?
Boucephalas.
Does that mean anything? Or is it just the name?
Just a name.
Okay.
So, seeing all of this unfold seems to have had quite the impact on Philip.
It's like, what, is he angry, happy? Is he going to, like,
Punch the nearest person to
Well,
him.
I was more just going to think, like, take Alex's spending money off him or something like
I was
that.
going to say, he's just been shown up by a 9-year-old and they've been drinking as well, which
I mean,
is
it's
not a
a-
good combination.
No, it's a fair point. I mean, if you were there, you'd probably be worried he was going to lash out at first in anger. You don't want to be stood next to him as he just
Yeah.
chins you.
Yeah.
So anyway, it seems Philip has the exact opposite reaction to what people are thinking. They're thinking he's going to go nuts, punch everyone, but he starts weeping with joy.
Okay. Just my son's so awesome, I'm going to cry.
Well, yeah,
He's an emotional drunk.
Oh, not the teary phase, no.
so it appears that Philip now sees Alexander is indeed becoming a proper chip off the old block. That the
Okay.
two of them can go off conquering places together, father and son day out.
At 9.
Yeah, and even that he might be a better cavalryman than his dad.
I mean, it's fair to play. He's got a pretty healthy attitude towards this. He seems happy with his son's accomplishments.
Yeah, absolutely. Which
So he
is,
said, like, they can't start calling him king instead of Philip. You're like, yeah, I'm fine with
yeah,
that.
happy days.
He
And
showed him up in front of his mates. Oh, this is awesome.
brilliant. I
He's got
wish
a
I
very-
was that good.
Yeah, he's got a very positive attitude about all this.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that as Alexander dismounts, Philip approaches him, kisses him on the head, and says,
My child, you must seek a kingdom equal to yourself. Macedonia is not big enough for you.
Okay.
so he's clearly like, yeah, you're going to go far, son, and I'm going to help you.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the next key event takes place a while later in either 338 or 337 BC, when Alexander's in his late teens. And it seems this event is pretty much caused by Philip, as Plutarch sets the scene like so.
But the disturbances in the royal household brought about by his marriages and his love affairs caused problems in his kingdom very similar to those in the women's quarters of the palace, and resulted in great quarrels between Alexander and his father.
So he just didn't. His dad was sleeping about.
Standard.
He didn't
And
like.
his son
Yeah.
didn't like it.
Yeah.
Is this just because he's indulging himself, or is this because it's slighting his mother? Why?
Bit of everything. I mean, we've got this comment from Plutarch about, it's like the arguments in the women's quarters.
So it was more like catfighty.
Well,
sort of thing.
yeah, I mean, Plutarch, he's not great with his view of women.
Right. Okay.
And
I mean,
then
not many of them were, to be
No.
fair. That's not a surprise.
no, but then Plutarch adds even further scorn onto this idea of women's scorns by suggesting Olympias has also had a hand in causing this
Okay.
with this line.
The bad temper of Olympias an envious and sullen woman, made still worse as she encouraged the young man.
Right, okay.
I think that's highly unfair. If your husband is basically, I'll be polite, sleeping with anything that moves, then I think you're allowed to be a little bit miserable.
Whilst not wanting to defend that sort of behaviour, if you're wife number 4, you probably expect
You know what's coming.
Look, she's giving him a son. She's giving him the heir to the throne. He should be thankful. He shouldn't treat her like that. I'd kill him.
Okay. So, yeah, we know.
We know why Philip didn't marry Helen.
Yeah.
He'd have no eyes, not just one.
So it's all kicking off, basically.
Yes, this great disturbance.
Yeah.
And the great disturbance is that Philip's about to get married again.
For the 7th time.
So he's up to wife number 6 now. He's going to start another one.
Wife number 7 is on the horizon.
Are these all political marriages, or is it just like she's nice, I want to marry her?
Previously, it seems a lot of them had been political marriages. This one seems different. So Philip has fallen for this young girl who Plutarch describes as being, he was far too old for her.
So if Alexander's in the late teens, how old's Philip at this point?
40s, 50s.
Okay.
Gonna say,
The suggestion is this new wife is in not much older than Alexander.
Right, okay.
So he's too old for her. So he's going to marry wife number 7 called Cleopatra.
Okay.
Not that one.
No,
I didn't think it'd be that one, but that was because all the Ptolemies were Greek, went to Egypt. So is Cleopatra
That's
originally a Greek?
after.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Cleopatra was originally a Greek name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Pretty sure it is.
I was going to say, he's being led by an other appendage other than his head. Let's put it that way.
His feet, one in front of the other.
His
Just
fists. It's Philip. It's his fists. Anyway, so he's planning to marry wife number 7, and the wedding starts as planned.
Okay.
So, even though this is Philip's 7th wedding, Cleopatra will be his first Macedonian wife.
Okay.
Yeah. So his previous wives, like Olympias, were from neighbouring states, and the marriages were more political, or because they conquered somewhere and he took a wife.
Just like you, I've taken over your country. You're now my wife.
Yeah, pretty much.
They don't get much of a say in it, do they?
No, I mean, he is Mr. Sword.
He is sword, sex, and spears, isn't he? So, so why is this unusual, or is it a problem that he's marrying a Macedonian woman?
Well, you think it wouldn't be if it weren't for the actions of Cleopatra's uncle, a man called Attalus.
What's Attalus done?
Well, you know how there's always that one relative that has too much to drink and causes a bit of a scene at a wedding?
Yeah.
It's him.
So is this like is this before the wedding they're worried about what he's going to do?
Oh, no, this is as the wedding is going
this is
on.
at the wedding.
They're at the
Okay,
wedding,
okay.
they've done the bit, they're having some drinks, standard.
So, yeah,
Attalus has had a few.
At a family wedding, we have been told to like kind of, you know, like you mark in football.
Yeah.
Like, you have them.
Yeah, you watch out for it. Make sure
Yeah.
he doesn't do that with them.
You have permission to rugby tackle them if necessary.
Yeah, so this is the guy.
Right,
This is the
okay.
guy they're all
He's
watching
been
for.
marked. So what does he do? Fight someone, throw open the cake?
No, he proposes a toast.
That's not a bad thing, is it?
It depends what toast.
Plutarch records the toast.
He called on the Macedonians to ask the gods for a legitimate inheritor of the kingdom from Philip and Cleopatra.
So he's saying that Alexander's not a legitimate child.
Basically.
Is this because he's Zeus's son?
That he's not pure Macedonian.
So
Yeah.
where's Olympias from?
She's an Illyrian.
Right, okay.
So, although in his mind, Attalus is probably just wishing the marriage of his king and his niece to be blessed with children,
Yeah.
he's rather foolishly forgetting that Philip already has children who were all lined up to be the next king.
And especially forgetting about Alexander, who by now is quite tough,
And
quite
a
bigger,
little-
and also a bit drunk.
Little
So
tipsy.
how old is Alexander at this point?
He's about 18.
Okay,
17,
so
18.
he's a full
He's a
full-grown lad at this point.
Yeah. So Alexander certainly doesn't take too kindly to this bloke, suggesting he's illegitimate and raising his mixed heritage.
And stabs him in the face.
Let's see what Plutarch has to say.
Or does he say something cutting?
Stung by his remark, Alexander said, "Do I appear to you to be a bastard, you fool?" And he threw a cup at him.
Like a cup of wine, or like threw the physical cup at him?
Threw the physical cup at him.
Okay, fair enough.
So now, seeing all this kicking off at his wedding, bear in mind that he didn't start this, Philip, rather drunkenly decides he's going to get involved.
Well done.
Let's see how that goes down.
Philip drew his sword and stood up to face Alexander, but fortunately for both of them, because of his anger and the wine, he tripped and fell over.
Wait, so he drew his sword at Alexander?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philip?
Yeah.
Because
Why?
he's
He's just seen his son chuck a cup across the wedding.
Yeah, it's quite justifiably, though.
Well, presumably, I mean, we assume Philip didn't realise Attalus had slighted Alexander.
Right,
All he's
okay.
seen is his kid chuck a cup, so he obviously gets his sword out, stands up,
And falls over.
face plant onto the ground.
I mean, like, fair play, you know, child or something you don't like, have a word. Drawing a sword's a bit of a strong
It's
reaction.
Macedonia. So anyway, to which, probably being a bit annoyed that his dad is having a go at him and not Attalus, Alexander, seeing his dad face plant the ground, adds this.
Look at this man, my friends, who is preparing to cross Asia from Europe, who comes a cropper, crossing from one couch to another. I mean, that's a brilliant line.
That is great.
And also, comes a cropper. Never knew it was such an ancient term.
I think that might be a flourish of translation. So, to avoid any further fighting...
We shouldn't skip over the fact that they all have swords at this wedding.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is not the best.
Is that the usual, or have they all come expecting a ruckus?
A little
Sorry,
bit of column A, a little bit of column
Have
B.
they all come expecting a cropper?
Come to cover cropper, yeah. So anyway, to avoid a full-scale bloodbath, Alexander leaves the wedding and takes Olympias with him.
Wait, he's invited one of his current wives to the wedding of his new wife?
Yeah.
That's a bold move by Philip.
That's Philip for you.
Are all 7 of them there? Has he just asked her to annoy her?
We're not sure.
Oh.
Either is possible. So anyway, Alexander, Olympias storm out, slam the door on the way out. He takes her back home to Epirus, where her family's from, and he himself spends time with her and the other Illyrians.
Yeah, so he's really just going to his mum's house and sulking.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about Attalus? Is he still there? Is he
He's
scarpered with him as
just
well?
carrying on with the rest of the party. It's very much a case of, what's their problem? So anyway, they leave Philip to pick up the pieces of his wedding and presumably get on to creating a new heir.
Wish you're going to be there for that as well, just watching.
What is wrong with you? Also, no, she's left. They have gone back to Epirus.
That's not nice. Everyone was being quite chummy
I
until
know.
that point.
Everything was going all nice. Philip and Alexander were getting on.
Did he ride his
house on
scaredy
fire.
horse
He
back to
rode
his
his
mum's
scaredy
house?
horse back to his mum's house.
And also, does this mean that he's wrecked his relationship with his existing heir?
So,
So he really needs to make another one.
Yeah, and quickly. But yeah, it was all going so well until Philip decided to get married again.
Wow. I mean, I think that his uncle bears half the responsibility
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah, but also 7 marriages.
6 just isn't enough, apparently.
So, as we said before, there are obvious key themes that emerge from these 2 events, which is why we've separated them out. It's this whole idea of Alexander's character being established in his youth that will come out later on. So if we start with Boucephalas, the taming of the untamable horse, it's obviously this idea that he's observant, he's intelligent, and overly confident to the verge of arrogance. That's one thing you'll see with Alexander. He can seem quite arrogant, but he is entirely confident in his own abilities.
Seems somewhat justifiably
I was gonna
arrogant.
say.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where you'll look at something he says and go, "Ooh, that's a bit arrogant," but then he
backs
does
it
it,
up.
and it's
Yeah.
like,
But then if
Yeah,
everyone
right.
around him also is telling him that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, then ultimately you're going to
Yeah.
believe that
Son
as
of
well.
God, blah, 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 blah.
But certainly, like that idea that he picks out that's the one flaw with the horse, that's the one thing that comes back later on
right,
in his military campaigns. It's not that the Persians are scared of their shadows, but
Very
he spots
insightful.
the weakness
Okay.
very clearly. Obviously, as well, you've got this quite prophetic line from Philip that Macedonia is not big enough for you.
Yeah, I'm sure he definitely said
Definitely, absolutely, not at all setting it up for off you go, son. Go and conquer everything else that you can get your hands on. It's almost like it's preordained.
that. Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's the start of his lifelong association with Boucephalas.
So he has this horse for a while.
This horse, Boucephalas, sticks around right throughout the Persian campaigns.
Oh, okay.
It's like one man and his horse.
I was going to say, yeah.
How
Not
long
the
do
woman
horses
and
live
his
for?
dog.
This one lives for quite a long time,
okay.
especially given the amount of things it has to go
And
through.
how many shadows it has to run away from.
Yeah, and the number of Persians it has to run
Trample.
into.
Yeah, and then the other main point is the wedding of his dad, which shows us that he can be quite hot-headed. He's obviously got quite a fiery temper.
I mean, he must have had to suffer through at least one other of these weddings.
Yeah. Very quick to kind of fly off the handle, and it would appear, well, violent, yes, but he doesn't
Could have been
actually,
worse.
yeah, he doesn't actually do
yeah,
anything that's
he,
violent, does he? But he
He
shows a lot
throws
of...
a cup. That could
He throws a
sting.
cup.
I mean, that's not that
Right, let me throw a
violent.
cup at you and see what happens.
Unless you were like throwing it at their head, you know.
I assume that's what he was aiming for.
Well, but
I mean, yeah, it shows he's kind of hot-headed, but Philip's the one who drew a sword.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is true.
and it's not so much about his nature in that moment, is it? It's kind of the lead up to it, and you think he's like, well, he's seen his mum get basically mistreated,
Shoved aside.
He's marrying someone that's young enough to be his sister.
Step-uncles just called him a bastard.
Yeah.
It's
Don't like that.
No, it's kind of like you can see where he's coming from. So it's this idea that his legitimacy is being challenged, isn't it, and being questioned.
Yeah, he doesn't like that at all.
No.
So
and-
it's not so much that, sort of Zeus, it's that you're not pure Macedonian,
Yeah.
therefore you're not a real king.
Yeah. And he doesn't like people challenging
Yeah.
his position, or
Right, okay.
and that is again something that definitely comes back.
Presumably then Philip is pure Macedonian.
Yeah.
Okay.
But isn't that something that as a leader you should be like that? You don't want to be challenged. You shouldn't be happy
Yeah,
about
but you shouldn't go
someone
around throwing
challenging.
cups at people. Can you imagine the House of Commons?
Challenging your rule.
Just be a big cup fight.
Well, yeah.
Well, they're not. I've never seen them drink anything in there. Maybe that's why.
I know.
They've got those lines that are two swords apart.
Yeah.
So
No,
no
not a
cups.
cup.
He's quite rash, isn't he? As
Yeah.
well, that's the other thing. And he's acting without thinking, and then he's going off. But I mean, even him going off, is that because he's being sulky, or is it because he wants to make sure that his mum's okay? Surely
Given what we know about his mum will be fine.
But surely leaving the situation is better than staying and it, kind of...
Yeah, but don't forget, it's
Getting even
Plutarch.
worse.
He's establishing little nuggets early on that are going to come back later on when he has another argument with someone whilst drunk and acts rashly and then regrets it terribly.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it, that we've not mentioned. Is it so much about the influence of, like, alcohol and the fact that basically they're all drunk
They're
all
always
the time.
shedded.
So they can't really make very sensible
If they were from
decisions.
further south and this was watered down,
I'd be
not
much
a
fine. I'd be like,
payment.
excuse me, sir, I
Exactly.
take offence at those things you have said to me. I'm terribly sorry. No, Macedonians, swords and wine.
Right, okay.
So there you have it, our quick overview of the taming of Boucephalus and the 7th wedding of Philip of Macedon. Thank you for listening. We hope this has been helpful. As always, leave us a comment below, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.